Attributes are the values that contain extra information about the element. And in addition, attributes enhance the functionality of the elements, right? So they are used to add extra information to the tag or to enhance the functionality. For example, I've got some HTML with an image element and an anchor element. The image element need at least two attributes to make itself functional. The src attribute where we put the image and the alternative attribute where we put the description of the image. So these two attributes are functional. And apart from these functional attributes, we can put other attributes to add extra information to the element. For example, the class attribute or the ID or the name. So the class attribute here is actually adding extra information, whereas the source and the alternative are functional. And the same applies to the anchor element. href is functional, class is for adding extra information. Now, these attributes or all the attributes that we have on a page become the part of the DOM tree or the DOM document. So the attributes are also nodes, and I have already told you that in the DOM introduction lecture. Now, to change or modify these attributes is also a part of the DOM manipulation. For example, if you want to create an image slider, then you need to put different images to the src attribute. And that means you need to modify or change the src attribute. So it's a kind of DOM manipulation. So working with the attributes is an essential part of the DOM manipulation. And this is what we are going to learn in this lecture. We will learn how to work with the attributes, how to add, remove, and change the attributes. So as usual, in order to work with the attributes, DOM provides us 4 different methods. And these methods are has attribute, get attribute, set attribute, and remove attribute. So how do they work and how do we code them? Let's check it out one by one. The first method on our list is has attribute. This method is investigative. It checks for the specified attribute and returns Boolean value, true or false, based on if the attribute is found or not. Now, for example, to the image element, I want to find out if the alternative attribute is there or not. So I first need to select the image element, which I did here. The image element has a class image, so I can use query selector to get the element. At the same time, I also selected the anchor element. So both the elements are now available to the JavaScript. So let's see how do we code has attribute method. We are going to call it to the image element and want to see if the alternative attribute is there or not. And as we know, the image has the attribute, so the value returned should be true. So let me refresh the page and I will say that true is returned. So the value returned by the method is a Boolean, true or false. That means it can be used in the conditionals. For example, I can write like if so that can be the usage of the method has attribute. When we investigate something, we definitely want to do something with the investigation. For example, if the attribute is not found, then we would say, okay, so we are going to add it. So that was the method has attribute, and it can be used to find out if an attribute exists or not. Now, the second one is the get attribute method. This method actually returns the value of a specified attribute. For example, the value of the alternative, the value of the href, this URL, and the name of the image is also the value, right? So if you want to get the value of the attribute, then you will use get attribute method. So in a program, you can call it on the element simply. Now let's say I want to get the href value. So I'm calling the get attribute to the anchor element. And the attribute that I want to read is the href. Now in the output, you will see this URL. Let me refresh the page. No. So here we have a type error, and I know where it is. Here is the error, right? That should be has attribute. Now let me refresh again, and here you see only the value of the specified attribute is returned, right? So that was the get attribute method. Now on our list, we have set attribute and remove attribute. The set attribute is used to add or update the value of a specified attribute. So if you want to update the value to something else, or you simply want to add a new value, then you will go for this method, set attribute. So let's now use this set attribute method and modify this anchor element. I'm going to change the value of the href to another URL. So I will use anchor and call the method on it. Now this method takes two arguments. The first argument is the attribute we wanna modify, comma, and the value. The second argument is the value, the new value that we wanna assign to the attribute. For example, at the same time, we can change the text content within the text content property, and here we can put visit eBay. Now you can see using the DOM, we have totally changed the anchor element. So let's make a refresh, and here you can see visit eBay. And how does it look here? And now you can see the attribute is changed to the eBay. So listeners, that was the set attribute method. And I think now you have realized the importance of this topic. It's an important part of the DOM manipulation. Now, the last one is the remove attribute. So as the name suggests, you can use it to totally remove an attribute. For example, to the image, I want to remove this src attribute, no image on the web. So to the image, I will call remove attribute, and here I will specify the attribute I want to remove. That's it. So let me refresh the page. As I refresh the page, you won't see this image. And here you see the image is gone. No src attribute here in the document. So that was the remove attribute method. Simple and easy to use. Now, one last and useful thing before we wind up this lecture. So here we are totally removing the src attribute from the image element. And to get the attribute back or to add it again to the element, we need to use set attribute method. So I can, for example, write set attribute, and the name of the attribute is src, and the value is. So now we're going to get the attribute back with this value. And now you will see the image as I refresh the page, right? So the important thing that I want to tell you is that some of the attributes can be accessed directly, and src is one of them. That means to change the value of the src or to add it to the element, you don't always need to call this set attribute method. If you want, so you can simply call it like this. So it will do the same as set attribute method did. So if I refresh the page, you won't see any difference, right? You can see the src attribute with the value is added directly. So this can also be done. So listeners, that was all about working with the attributes. Now you know what are attributes and how to add, change, or remove them. It's now time to move forward. In the next lecture, you will learn to work with the classes, like how to add, change, modify, remove, and toggle classes. And don't forget one thing, classes are also attributes. I'll see you in the next lecture.